Oh, now say it, Ray. Now give me all the praises.
Oh, that I love your podcast. You that's the commercial now.
N- Now that we're now that we're recording officially, I had to bait you into that. What's up, man?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good, man. Ray Meoni of Diavolo Booking.
Yeah,
Did I say that correctly?
you did say that correctly. I'm surprised
Why?
because a lot of people don't say it right. They say it as Diavolo or something like that, where
Or
it's like it just sounds like Diablo, but with a V instead of a B.
right. I could see where people would think Diablo.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It means the same thing in Italian. So
Okay. Well, that works. Diablo Booking. I mean, I've seen you around the scene, right? NEPA. I feel like I've seen you do open mics. I've seen you do band stuff. I've seen you do a little attempt at some comedy at open mics.
yeah.
Yeah. So I've never had the chance to like sit down and talk to you, Ray. So I wanted to get to know who Ray Meoni is. I know your sister probably better than you,
Oh, absolutely.
which isn't much really. Which isn't much. I've probably talked to her for 5 minutes longer than you.
Oh man, I mean
And
that's saying something because she's always super busy.
I know, well, she does the whole well, that's not true. She was a guest as well with the spooky summer thing with Bobby Keller. So I lied to you. I've talked to her maybe 45 minutes longer than I've talked to you. So who is Ray Meoni? Let's start with little Ray Meoni as a 5-year-old boy.
As a 5 year old. Yeah. Oh man,
What's Ray doing at 5 years old?
I'm 5 years old. I was still probably listening to Iron Maiden.
At
Uh,
five? That's cool.
Five. Yeah, yeah. That's what I kind of grew up on. I grew up on like the hair metal kind of thing. That's what my parents were into. So that's kind of what I grew up listening to, and then I just kind of got into like heavier music after that. And that's kind of how I got into like basically the music scene around here. I just went to heavy shows, and then I also like went to like the indie shows and pretty much any show that I can go to at that time when I was younger. I was there.
Where was that? Where'd you go? Like where were some I guess because you were probably underage at the time, right? Where were some underage spots?
So there was the vintage theater. So there was like I went to like all three vintage theaters. I know there was like a fourth one somewhere else, but there was the one the Ritz Theater. I went to that one. Then there was the one by where Center City Print is.
Hmm.
And then there's the one that was in the German complex where I think that like pop-up bar
Okay.
that started coming in. And then there was like New Visions at the time too. Like they were doing shows. But that they didn't even last long. I think they only last like a couple of years. And then I know they closed down in like 2013 and Vintage Theater closed down in like 2014. So it's like trying to get like, all age shows at that time was like really rough. And, Underwood Skate Park was doing shows at that time too. They're doing like heavier shows. So that was like always cool to see. Um, and then like I would just go up to Wilkes-Barre for like the shows up there, like Carl Hall or Burton Irby's was doing it at the other side. And then there was like a church that was doing shows, Redwood.
Hmm.
I think I went to like one Cafe Metro show before they actually closed.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of places currently. And I never got into the local scene when I was younger. It wasn't until I was like started at the weekend that I really kind of got involved, and that was '04. Um, and by that time, all the really cool places, home base, Metro, were kind of Metro is still around, but not as prevalent as it once was. Um, yeah, it's a weird thing, like with there not being a lot of underage venues now. I guess there's not much money involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny now because most of the people who just go to all age shows are just always like already 21, so it doesn't really matter. But I mean, I still like to do all age shows. So like, everyone that I grew up with now is just they're all parents, so they all have kids now. So it's nice to see them bring out their kids and stuff like that, and show them like a scene where they can grow up in and kind of be influenced to start bands and stuff like that, just to you know progress the music community in this world, or in this city rather.
Yeah, I mean that's so important. I mean that's I was doing that show series at Carl Hall when I was doing the radio station stuff. It was called Alternatives Underground. And I wanted it was important for me to have an all ages venue because I wanted to have, like you said, parents be able to bring their kids, expose them to the different music at a young age. And that was probably one of the most rewarding things as part of that series that that happened was I remember the first show was Ion Attraction. I think the show started at 8. I think the doors opened at 7 or 7:30, but there was already a line out, at the door for the first one, and they were, a mom with her son, and at the end of the show, like there's kids hanging around, and the band kind of hung out too, and they were like talking to the kids and even signing some autographs and stuff. That's just like a cool moment, and you never know what that moment could do, or the effect it could have, long term on a young kid.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. It's just something like, where I think back, if I didn't have shows to go to, I don't know kind of where I would be at this point. I mean, I think that was just really a part of like a major circumstance in my life where, I always had shows, no matter how like shitty my life was at the time. It's just, I always had something to look forward to every single weekend at that time, anyways. Now it's like a little bit harder to get like, bands to do it every weekend and stuff like that, which it's fine. We all have like, actual jobs now, but it's even at that time, I just kind of don't know where I would be. I think that this definitely played a major role in my life. And, to put on like shows now and to kind of see like, kids kind of get involved with the music scene at this point is just kind of like, a cool feeling. Cause like I know where I was at that time. So to kind of see myself in their shoes is kind of cool to see.
Yeah. Now, before we get into Diavolo booking, talk about, like I said earlier, when we first started it, I've seen you attending open mics, whether it was doing some comedy, performing, lyrically or in a band. Talk about kind of the places you've been in the NEPA scene, in regards to like performances.
Performances, I've done stand up probably at this point, close to, you know, 8 or 9 years at this point.
Are
I
you
mean,
still doing it?
here and there, I'll still do it if like somebody asks me to do a show now, I'll do it. It's at the point where it's like, kind of like the whole booking thing kind of like took over really rampantly, which, I'm really happy with. But in a sense, I don't have time to do stand up as much anymore, which in a way it's like kind of that was like my foot in the door when I would just do like shows. So when I was like underage, when I was like 16, like I started doing shows when I was like 16, 17 years old. Um I would just do like shows with bands all the time. That was like kind of my thing, and I kind of did that until I was about 21. And even at that time, it was like really hard to kind of perfect my stand up in a sense, just because there was not a lot of like all age open mics at that time. There still isn't a lot of all age open mics. I think there might be one or two around the area that might still do an all age open mic, but for the most part, like all of them were in bars. So for you to just even get into a bar was super hard at that time. And once I turned 21, that's kind of when I found my home at the Keys, and I was just kind of there all the time. And that's kind of where I was just doing stand up, predominantly was just at the Keys all the time. And I think that's where I like perfected my craft at that time. And then that's when I was able to go to like the V Spot open mic that Rich does, and everything. So, you know, all age open mics I feel should make a comeback just for that reason alone. Because it's really hard, especially in Scranton, to be underage and do anything in this area. Because really in this area, a lot of places that you can really only go to is just bars.
Hmm.
And if you are, 16, 17, or even 15 years old and you want to either be a musician or you want to do stand up or you want to do like poetry or whatever, and for you to do any of that kind of material at an open mic, it's just super hard for you to do because, open mics are just slim to none when it comes to all age open mics, anyways.
Yeah, I guess that's why it was hard for me to get involved before I started at the Weekender because I started at the Weekender when I was 21 years old. Um, but like you're saying, before that, I mean, I remember wishing when I was like 16 or 17, I was wishing that I was 21 and it wasn't like other people thought. I didn't want to go out drinking and get drunk at the bar. I wanted just to be able to get in them and see the music and hear the music. Um, so yeah, I mean, definitely it's a challenge.
Oh yeah. I remember when I was like 18 years old, there was a band called Gloomidus Doom, and they were super cool. Around this time, the one vocalist at the time had a peg leg because his leg was amputated,
Oh
so he had a
shit.
peg leg as his leg, and he would just bash a cowbell off him. And they played at the Keys at the time, and I remember staying outside of the Keys just so I can hear them because I couldn't get in.
I think I want to see that more than hear it.
Yeah, well, he's not even their vocalist anymore. I don't even think they're around anymore. But they were like a weird like doom ska band at the time. But they were like super cool to see. They're from Reading.
I don't think I've ever seen a man or a woman with a peg leg in real life. I'm not making fun. I'm just like, I don't think I've ever seen it.
It was super cool. I mean, I got to see them at that. I think they were like playing at Reverb or something like that. That's like how I knew about them. And so when I saw that, that was like the coolest band I ever got to see.
Well, I love the fact that he took advantage of his situation, you know?
Yeah,
That's funny. That's awesome. Oh man. But yeah, it's so do you think you're funny, Ray?
I like to think. I don't think I really am that funny, but it's super weird. In this area, it's like you have a lot of friends that go to open mics, so it's like it's really weird to know if like you're actually funny or is just your friends laughing at the stupid shit that you say on stage.
So
But
ever been booed off the stage before?
I've never been booed off the stage. I
Never
can
been
thankfully
booed.
say that.
You're going to too many safe places.
I know I should not do
Gotta
that.
you gotta get out in the real world.
I did do a tour in California, which was
That's
super.
cool.
Yeah.
How'd you get out there?
So I just kind of, asked around for shows before me and a buddy of mine went out there, and then we were able to hit up some open mics while we were out there, and that was super fun. But the open mics, I've realized how comedy open mics are compared to how the open mics here are, where they're just mixed mics, where they're just, 3 minute, 5 minute open mics for per person. So for you to get your stuff down in 5 minutes, you're basically only doing like one or two jokes and then you're off the stage.
Yeah.
So that was definitely like an eye opener in a sense on how to kind of cut the fat of my jokes. Um, and around here, you wouldn't see any of that. Like a lot of places are really generous to even give like 10 minutes.
Yeah. What's your shtick? You got a shtick?
I don't know. I mean, like I've been told like I'm like the Dane Cook. Like somebody told me that out in like California, and I kind of like it set me off a weird way just because I don't like Dane Cook. But
Why do you like Dan Cook? I don't understand that. That's like
I don't
I,
know. It's
I feel
just
like he got a bad rap. I think he got too popular. It's like a Nickelback of
I don't
comedy, you
know.
know?
I don't even think it's that point. I don't think his material itself is funny. I think he's a good actor. But as
You
for him,
think he's a good actor?
he's a good actor.
I don't know
I thought he
about
was
that.
funny in Employee of the Month. I thought that was a good like
It was
set.
fine. I think he's a better comedian than he is an actor.
I don't know. I think he's goofy as an actor. That's kind of why I like him.
Employ them. Was that with what's her name?
Jessica Simpson, I think it
That's the
was.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he was in a well, I mean, back then when he was, in his prime in comedy even. I mean, he had a couple movies. Good Luck Chuck, I think was one of them or something like that.
He's in that. He was
Or
in
my
Waiting.
Waiting was good. Yeah. I mean, that was a smaller role, but also maybe it wasn't good. Was it Good Luck Chuck? Is that
Good Luck Chuck was his, yeah.
My Best Friend's Girl or something with
Maybe.
Jason
I don't
Jason
know. I don't I remember like the only two movies he was actually in was Waiting and Employee of the Month. I think Employee of the Month was like one of his first like leading roles. But I mean
Yeah.
he played a good role in that to kind of symbolize like a Sam's Club kind of
Yeah.
aspect.
I think, and this might make me sound bad, but I think Dane Cook was my first like favorite comedian, I guess. Like when he came onto the scene, well for me it was like 02, 03, I guess it was. But I mean, he killed it for me. It was awesome. Comedy's fun, man. Comedy's really fun. I wish I give you a lot of credit for being able to even attempt comedy, especially at open mics, because I feel like I don't know, like it could be a mixed crowd.
Yeah.
At least like if you pay, like I just went and saw Shane Gillis this past weekend. I kind of had an idea of like who he was and what his comedy was like, so people like know what they're kind of gonna see, as opposed to like go to open mic and you might not know what you're getting at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely easier when you have like a headliner like him and you kind of have an idea of like what his jokes are going to be like, or you look at Matt Rife. Matt Rife is, blowing up on the scene right now. Um, and you kind of have like an idea of how he's going to be, but then you have to kind of look at the openers to see like, what other bullshit you're going to deal with. So when I was doing stand up and even now I'm still like this. It's, like I have my set of material, but it's whenever I'm doing a show, it kind of depends on am I going to do this material or am I going to do, the 10 minutes that I have? Am I just going to do all crowd work? Because you have the comics that will do like their set. Like a good example is George Carlin. Like George Carlin does or did a lot of his material, he'll write it word for word. And then you have a lot of other comics that, wouldn't do that. Like that wasn't me. I kind of did a lot of my material on the spot. So, when I would do open mics and things like that, I would just kind of come up with something that I thought was like funny, just like off the top of my head. And if it hit, I would just turn it into a joke. And that's kind of how I always did stand up in a sense. So I guess like that's like my style of comedy. I kind of like to kind of involve the audience a lot in my material. And there's been some shows where I would do only like one or two jokes and then the rest of it would just be all crowd work because I think it's more fun to involve the crowd than it would be for me to just talk about whatever bullshit I think is funny that nobody else does. So
Crowd work is interesting, and I think Matt Rife is like a master
mhm.
at it.
He
Um,
knows what he's doing.
yeah, I mean, to be that quick and witty and that's just something I think is pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot has to do with him coming off of Wild and Out, when
Sure,
he was
yeah.
on that. Because I remember watching an interview with him, and he was saying it was just kind of like a dog eat dog kind of thing where you were just kind of being interviewed every single show to kind of be put on the show. So I think a lot of that has to do with, how well he works. And it definitely does work for him. So, I'm not going to knock someone on, regardless if I don't think he's funny or not, he does very well.
Yeah.
You a lot of his crowd work is funny. Um, his material I think could be hit or miss, but once he gets into that area of where he's just doing crowd work, it's really funny.
It almost seems like those people are like set in the crowd on purpose when you have
Yeah,
a comedian like that. It's like,
it,
how does
it
this even happen? How is that set up and you're able to just roll with it like that?
I mean, it takes years. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like the thing. It's like when I first even started doing stand up, I'd never been like really booed. I just kind of like just didn't get any laughs. So, doing, 10 minutes on open mics where you're just bombing half the time, it feels like an eternity. So you
Mhm.
kind of have to like kind of learn quick
Yeah.
on, what's funny, what's not. And even that, it's just, you kind of just have that idea of like, oh, this is going to be super funny. And then it's like, a lot of people who would go to like his shows or just comedy shows in general, a lot of them just get drunk and they just kind of want attention. And that's really where it comes from.
Yeah.
So when you just give them attention and just make fun of them, it works.
Yeah. I think if I were to ever try comedy, I would have to have like things like planned out, like jokes written out and like a start and end, a punchline.
That, definitely helps. When you go to open mics around here, a lot of people don't do that and they just kind of say like, oh, here's a funny story that has like little to no context of what's going on. So I mean, it just doesn't make sense. A lot of people would just say, it's something about their buddy that they think is just a funny story, but in general,
Yeah.
it's not a joke. A lot
You
of
had to
people,
be there. You had to be.
yeah, yeah, and that's really what it is. It's like, these are not jokes that people are actually saying. They're just saying like, stories that they know of their friend. Like I don't know whoever the fuck they're talking about. It's just
Yeah.
it is what it is. But
Yeah. I think Bill Burr is an excellent storyteller. Is
I
that
love
accurate?
Bill Burr.
Yeah.
Bill Burr is probably one of my favorite comics. Uh,
He's the man.
Probably definitely kind of like one of those comics that inspired me to do stand up was one of him.
That's cool. And outside of comedy, have you performed in bands? Is that accurate?
Here and there. I
In
kind of
there.
like there's like some bands that would just kind of start up, fall through. Like we never like really played shows or anything. I think the only band that I've really been in where we actually played a show was the one that I'm currently in, Noskaratu, and but that I mean that also makes sense because I also have members from Christ Chopper in the band, so they've already done like plenty of shows before I've even played shows. So but I mean like there's been times where I would go to shows and I would just grab the mic from my friends' bands and just do vocals.
And that was okay with them?
Yeah, yeah, they don't care. Or they do, and I don't know.
That was when I was younger. I went to a house party in a basement, and um, I grabbed my friend's guitar, and he was totally cool with it. To the point where he's like, "I'm gonna unplug this so it doesn't sound like garbage because I can't play." Right? He knew that. The problem was, I didn't eat anything all day. I think I was gonna like get food on the way. I worked all day. I was gonna get food between working and on the way to the show. But the guys in the band were late. I was going with them. They were late. Couldn't stop. I think I had a payday. Was all I had for food that day. So I got to the party. I had like 2 beers and I was gone. So either it was because I didn't eat or I got drugged. I don't know which one it was. Probably because I didn't eat. But that was a fun time. I grabbed my friend's guitar. He unplugged it. I acted like I was playing it. The people in this basement thought I was playing it. It was like my time to shine. And it was all good until I fell over and knocked a pitcher of beer into one of the amps. And it was still cool. Everyone loved it. It was like punk rock, right? But I had to pay for that amp because I broke it. I didn't grab a guitar after that.
No, you never learned how to
No,
play.
nope. I think I learned like the first couple to like landslide. That's as far as I got. I just had no interest. I think I got a guitar in 2006. But I just yeah, I just had no my mind doesn't work like that. I think there's definitely people who have, whatever side of the brain, is for arts and the other side of the brain is for, whatever else. I don't have the art side of the brain that works.
Mhm.
I just don't.
I get it. I mean, I can't really play instruments either. I mean, I tried playing bass. I suck at bass. So I just can't concentrate on it. So I get it.
Yeah. So you're in the scene, you're in some bands, you're doing some open mics, doing comedy. Um, Diavolo Booking is born.
Hmm.
Where did that come from? I've seen the name across social media. I see a bunch of shows at like Clarkys Billiards. I want to talk about that venue because I never heard of it until you started booking shows there. We've got the Happy Skalidays second annual show coming up in December at some point.
Hmm.
Let's talk about the birth of Diavolo Booking.
So Diavolo Booking kind of came about where the probably, let's see, back in March of last year, this guy messaged me and he was asking me if I wanted to book Promise Breaker and Promise Breaker on a tour with Fall 50 Feet, two hardcore bands. And at this time there was really no shows in Scranton going on, like for heavy music wise. So, they were like, well, they told me that it was like some promoter and he somehow got my name from somewhere. So I said I'll just do it. I'll find a room and I'll just book it. So at that time I did it at room 221 up in Dixon City. And that show went well. And then after that show happened, another friend of mine from Pittsburgh, he's in a band called Wind Chimes, some death metal band, which they're super sick. And he was asking for a show. So at this time, Room 221 didn't really want to do shows. So I was trying to find another place, which I did. I found Keystone Stage, and that's kind of where I started doing Keystone Stage a lot, and that's kind of like how Diablo Booking kind of started, where a lot of my friends would just ask me to do all age shows because at that time there was no all age shows happening. It was just always at the V Spot, it was always at Finnegan's or any other bar in this area, backyard, wherever. So that's kind of where I just kind of took that step and just decided, okay, I kind of want to just do this. I want to book shows in this area. I want to do all age shows, you know, and that's kind of where like Keystone Stage kind of gave me that footing to where I was able to do shows, and I've done shows there for almost 2 years. And at that point, a lot of my shows were just becoming a little bit too big for the crowd that they can have in their venue. So at that time, I tried to look for another place, and that's kind of where Clarkys Billiards came in. And I went to Clarkys one time with Jess. We were playing pool and noticed that there was like a cover band playing, and both of us were kind of just like, "Oh, I didn't know they did bands here." And we were talking to the owner. The owner was, really, really nice and everything. And he asked us, can we, do like basically any bands that want to play here? And I told him, I book punk shows here and there, so I can bring that in. And he was all for it. So that's when I started kind of putting on some shows there. Like I just had the first show there in October, and that went really well. I have the show, this Friday, and then I also have Skalidays there. So it seems like he's really liking the idea of bringing more people in, which it's a super cool place. I mean, there's really nothing I can complain about. He's definitely way more accommodating than anything that I can really think of. So I really appreciate that in any kind of sense. But just doing shows there, it's just it's super relaxed feeling, kind of like a second home kind of feeling.
So shows at a billiards
Yeah,
place. Are the pool tables open when these shows are going on or no?
yeah. I mean, this is like a big open room, which is
Okay.
super cool. So like all the way, so like you would walk into the building and then just all the way into the back, they have like this just little stage there. And it's just like they have a little stage, they have a bar there, so people can get drinks and stuff like that. So it definitely made it a lot easier in that regard. Um, and I think at first, I putting on shows there was just kind of iffy to see how it was, but it seems, that this is going to be, the new all age spot.
Okay. Where is that located?
That's right up the street from the V spot, like two doors up from the glider, like
So
right
is
across
it
the street from the football field.
okay? So it's like if you were driving on that road, I think it's Providence Road, like
Yep.
towards the V spot, it would be Clarkys, glider, and then the V spot.
Yeah, it's like that garage
Okay.
first, and
All right.
then it's the glider, then the V spot.
And how long has it been there for? I never heard of it again, like until you started booking shows
Apparently,
there.
so I guess it's been there for a few years, and I think it was like something else. Like I hear people saying that it was like this old, like I guess it was like a pool hall before that as well, before they I guess changed the name. Um, because I can't remember the name of it. I just remember saying hearing people say, "Oh, it's this old company," and I'm like, I guess so. So like really, all I know of it as Clarkys. I really don't remember what it was. It's like that auto store, Sneak and Sunday. It's like right next door.
Okay. And as far as like booking a show, I mean, what goes into booking a show? Because I don't know anything about that.
So a lot of people do a lot of things different. I mean, I still do it kind of old school. As much as I promote on Facebook and other social media platforms, I still like to do like the footwork of it. So I'll print out flyers and I will go around all downtown and just put up in like anywhere downtown that I can, any kind of businesses that let me put it up. Like Loyalty's been super cool. Bizarre Skate Shop's been super cool for me to put them up there. Papa's Pizza, like Nick D's Video Game Vault, like in the mall and stuff like that. So I mean, like, there's a lot of places that have been super cool to let me put some different stuff up there. So I mean, um, that's the only thing that I can say is just like a lot of businesses in the area has just been super cool for me to put up like flyers and everything. So I mean, I still do the footwork to it. So I think that kind of makes what I do a little bit different than a lot of people. I know
That's
Jeff
probably
does it too.
yeah. Well, that's probably more of the promotional side of things. But as far as booking the shows, I mean, are bands reaching out to you? Do they have management reaching out to you? Like, how does that work?
So I mean, I've had management reach out to me here and there. Sometimes if I could pull the show, I'll do it. But for the most part, a lot of bands that do message me, it's more so like touring bands. Um, and a lot of times they'll ask for like weekdays and just this area,
They're passing through. Yeah,
weekdays don't work here. So, I kind of tell them in like kind of like more of like respect for them. Like I don't want them to play a show where it's like
sure.
just me and like all the bartenders just, being there, because I don't know. There's
It's a
there's a
bad
lot of
look.
places that will do that, you
Yeah,
know, from because I mean weekday shows just, suck in general. But I refuse to do any kind of weekday shows. Like the second that they tell me like, "Hey, I need this weekday," I'm like, I can't do it. It's literally that reason. Like I don't want to see them, travel all this way if they're like traveling from New York, Philly, or even Boston. I don't want to see them just playing in an empty room because that's
right.
not, it sucks. So
Yeah,
if I tell them, but then again, I'll also reach out to them and just say, hey, if there's a weekend, either like a Friday or Saturday that you can do, you know, we'll do that. I don't care what Saturday it is or anything like that. It's just I'd rather do that, have at least a couple people in the room for you to play in front of than you just playing in front of like a bunch of people. And I think a lot of people like kind of respect that more as
sure.
much as that they need the date, it's just easier to go about.
Well, I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong. I imagine that the way you get paid is also indication from how the show goes too, right?
No, I don't get paid. I don't.
You don't
I
get
don't.
paid at all.
No, I don't care about the money.
You just do this for free.
Yeah, I rather give it to the bands. That's really what it is. It's just like I have a full time job, but like I don't care about the money. Like
Okay,
money has nothing to do with it. It's just I rather see people come and see any band that I bring in. I rather see if their parents like bring their kids in, just get them involved with this and just kind of influence them to do basically just join bands, whatever they want to do. Like I'd rather see that happen. And I'd rather see bands get paid. Um, 'Cause, just in this area, there's not a lot of places that will pay bands for whatever show that they put on. There's really not a lot of places that will do it. So for me, it's like, I make, a couple $100 on a show. I'm just like, okay, well, here's it to the bands, you know. I'd rather see it go to the bands than
sure.
do anything else.
Ray's got passion.
Yeah.
That's cool though. I mean, yeah, with that being said, even if okay, you don't get paid, right? But like, there's a lot of respect involved in that. If someone comes to you and you book them in a bad room, that's gonna, you know, be a negative thing on your name.
Yeah. I mean, if it ever comes down to it where nobody shows up for a show. I remember one time I booked a show, nobody came. I think Bobby Keller was the only one that actually showed up, and so he was the only one that showed up. And then I just kind of looked at the room and I felt like so bad that nobody came to this show. And I ran. This was at Keystone Stage at the time. It was actually last November that this happened. I ran down the street and I just bought pizza for all the bands because if I can't pay you, I can at least feed you something.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of where my mentality goes. So that's kind of what I just did for the bands that where nobody came to the show. I just did that for.
Cool. So this is neat. This is like a a cool, passion project where it's kind of good for everyone, right? It's hopefully it's driving traffic to a venue. It's exposing people to possibly a new band and new things like that. Um, that's cool, man.
Thank you.
And Ray's not getting paid.
No, I don't care.
Man, good for you. Good for you. I like that. They're good people. The Meonis are good people. So talk about this happy Skalidays.
So yeah, this year's Happy Skalidays. Got 7 ska bands on it. My band is playing Noskaratu. Then we also have the What Nows. The What Nows have been playing this area for at least more than 10 years. I remember seeing them when I was like super young. Um, then the one band like I'm really excited for is, Sergeant Scagnetti. I've seen them like a bunch of times, like since they played with they played once for me at Keystone. And they were just such a fun set. I went out to like Connecticut to go see them for the record release because they're just a super fun band to see. They throw out like I don't know, like foam swords and stuff like that, and they try to reenact the Braveheart scene, which is super cool. And then I have Skappository from Long Island, New York. They're super cool. They've been playing this area a little bit now. Um, then there's Duo with Malice. They're from Buffalo, New York. They like recently came back within the last couple of years, which is super cool. And then I also have the Chemical Imbalance. They're like a new ska hardcore band from Vernon, New Jersey. They're like the same members of Fat Chance, and they're just a super fun band. They played at Camp Pennsylvania. Very cool set. And then I also have Keep Flying. Keep Flying is kind of like a pop punk with horns
Dude,
punk band.
that's a great band.
I love Keep Flying. I've seen them multiple times this year
That's a
alone. And
that's a great get.
Yeah, I'm
I
really
inter
excited about this lineup, honestly.
Yeah, that sounds like an awesome time. And if you were true to what you said about listening to all my podcasts, you would have remembered that I interviewed a member of that band.
You did.
You son of a bitch. You fucking lying guy.
How am I lying?
That's cool, man. So I mean, this area, I would never. Is there a big draw for ska? Draw
Yeah,
for ska. I like that.
Scott really draws. You know, that's the one thing that I can say is that I never understand the people that shit on ska. I mean, there's a lot of my friends that will, like just talk about like how, ska is like kind of like that feeling when you're a kid and you get mozzarella sticks for the first time, and it's like it's the weird thing, but I don't know. It's just like there's like so many people that just shit on this genre for no reason at all. I don't
Why do you
know.
think that is? I mean, what's wrong with ska?
I don't know. I mean, I like ska, but I mean, like, there's so many different variations of ska. If you really think about it, a
There
lot of
is.
people when you think about ska, you think of like, the kind of mid '90s, like Mighty Mighty Boss Stones, Real Big Fish era.
Yeah,
Uh, I
great
mean,
bands.
when I think about ska, I always go to the two tone movement with, you got Madness, Bad Manners, Specials, um, just plenty of bands in that area that has like the kind of like the chicka chicka kind of sound, and that's like kind of my type of ska. Like the '90s, ska core that came out with like Suicide Machines, stuff like that, and I love that type of ska too. But for me, it's just like I like the kind of two tone over that. But I mean, like a lot of people just kind of immediately just go to like Real Big Fish. Either Real Big Fish, No Doubt, Sublime, anybody
Oh,
that you talk to about
yeah,
ska.
Boston's for sure.
And Boston's are great. You
Yeah,
know, it's just there's so many good bands out there that play ska. And then
yeah.
you go into like kind of like that mid 2000s era and you have bands like, Flaming Tsunamis and Folly and plenty of other bands that will just they'll incorporate like heavy hardcore into just ska riffs, and it's just the coolest thing ever.
That's cool. So this is the second annual. So I guess the first year went pretty well.
Yeah, ironically how the first one went was it was actually not intentional. I didn't intend to do like a ska fest at all. It was just kind of one of those rare moments when I asked all these ska bands to play the show, that they all said yes at the same time. So then I'm like, oh, I guess I'm just doing a ska fest because I'm not going to say no to any of these bands.
Right.
So that's kind of how it went. I was just kind of, shocked at the fact that, in just one day at the same time, everybody was just, telling me that they're good for the show. And that's kind of where it went to, I'll just do a ska festival. And for me, it's like, it just seems super fun to do. I kind of never really did a festival like that before. So I had no idea what I was doing at that time. Like this year, I definitely have like a little bit more knowledge to it, but for some reason, I thought it would be a great idea to do 7 bands last year at 8 o'clock at night, which is not a good idea. But again, I didn't know what I was doing within my first year of booking shows and stuff. So this year definitely is going to be a little bit easier to do, especially with this show is only like we start at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon
Okay.
on Saturday, and it still ends like before 11. So it's still like kind of that.
That's like the new curfew, I feel like.
Yeah. Even me, whenever like any of the shows that I've ever booked, I'm like, oh, it's 10 o'clock, and I have to be here for like another hour because I'm a dumbass that decided, all these bands could play until like 11:30 is a good idea.
Yeah.
And then 10 o'clock rolls around and it's like I'm tired.
We got a full-time job, you know?
Yeah.
Gotta wake up in the morning. The name is clever. I mean, Happy Skalidays. I mean, was that you? Did you do that?
That actually, um my guitarist actually came up with that. I was originally going to call it Merry Skamas. And then he was just like, "Oh, you should just do Happy Skalidays." And I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, I think I like Skalidays better than Skamis.
Yeah. It was gonna be Christmas themed either way. My whole idea was it that, maybe one year I can get like a reunion that, nobody has like really got a chance to see in like, you know, a long time. Like if I was able to get like Bob and the Saggets to reunite for, a ska festival, that would be it because all of them would probably come in for the holidays. Or if I was able to get like 8 Ounce Joe, to do a reunion, I think that would be like super cool. And I've tried to ask 8 Ounce Joe to do a reunion and never got a reply. But hopefully, like one day I can get like 8 Ounce Joe to do a reunion.
Sure. And what's the date on that this year?
This year it's gonna be on December 9th.
December 9th. Clarky's Billiards,
Clarkys Billiards. I have been.
Providence Providence Road, Scranton. Very cool. Second annual. Happy Skalidays. Yeah, I'm glad you didn't do Skamis. That sounds like a kind of religious holiday.
Yeah, I don't know. I know like Skalidays has been like a thing for a lot of areas, so I was just kind of be try to be a little bit different. And I think like Skamis already like kind of like went into my mind immediately because I was thinking of like a Christmas themed
Yeah,
uh ska festival, and I guess I just didn't think about like Happy Holidays for whatever reason at the time. And so then that's kind of where my brain went with Skamis.
okay. It's not terrible.
Eh, It's not good, but
It's,
I get it. I get it. You don't like it. It's fine.
I don't. I didn't like it. So I like Happy Skalidays better than
That's
Happy
fair.
Skamis.
That's completely fair.
That sounds like it's an extension of like Hanukkah or something.
I mean, I've been to like other ska festivals where they would do like Skanksgiving, Skanica. I've been to. Skanica was like a thing out in like Pittsburgh. I remember that happened one year, and that was like a cool lineup. I
Okay,
think like Less Than Jake was like on it or something like that.
that's cool. So after the Happy Skalidays show, anything else left for the year, or are you kind of looking to 2024?
At that point, I'm just looking at the 2024. A lot of work gets put into Skalidays, and where it's just only me. Like Jess helps me out a lot, but for the most part, it's me that puts up the flyers everywhere. Any show that I do, I put up flyers, but like the Skalidays is definitely like a bigger thing that I just put in a lot of work into. And then by that time, I'm like, I'm just exhausted from everything. I'm just like I'm done for the year, and I try to kind of enjoy the rest of the year that I have left at that point. But at that point, I'm always still trying to look into what I can do for January, February, March, or whatever. So I'm always just going.
I mean, any big aspirations for 2024? I mean, obviously, this is the second year for Skalidays. Hopefully, obviously, it'll be better this year than it was last year. It'll keep growing. It'll be a huge annual thing. You'll get your reunion shows one day. Um, but as this continues to grow and you continue to learn more and you continue to book shows and work with more bands, is there anything else that you're thinking, hey, like, I mean, I know you got a full-time job and this is kind of like a passion project for you, but I mean, is there a bigger picture here, or are you just kind of gonna go with the flow and see what happens?
I'm just gonna go with the flow. I mean, I know it, just kind of see what comes up, and I'm not really opposed to what any band that comes towards me for a show and stuff like that. Like I'll book whatever. It's more, when it comes to like Skalidays, that's kind of like the big thing that I always like kind of focus on. Um, so even with that, I try to make every year bigger than the last. So there's definitely a lot of ideas of what's going to happen for next year. Um, it's kind of what I want to say about that because I can't really give too much out of
Sure.
what I want to do for it. The one thing that I can just say is it's definitely going to be a lot bigger than this year.
Cool. Well, I hope so. That's awesome. I always like when people take, passions they have and kind of turn it into something good,
Right.
I like to think that I do that with this whole thing. So it's cool to have people like, Rich Howells and doing what he does, and you're doing what you do, and me doing what I do, and Joe Cavison with the Steamtown Awards and Let's Just Say Music Conference. There's always, it seems like a good collection of people trying to just um build awareness for our little area, and kind of just do the right thing. So I'm glad you're part of that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So happy Skalidays, December 9th, Clarkys Billiards. Tickets available. Is that an in-person type thing, or tickets available for purchase prior to that? What's the story there?
Yeah. So we have an Eventbrite. It makes it a lot easier on the event page. Like we have it linked with the event page, so you can literally just buy them on the event page at the. It's the second annual Happy Holidays Music Festival on Facebook. So it makes it a little bit easier for you to like get your tickets and stuff like that on there. But we do have an Eventbrite. If you get it on the Eventbrite, it's $10, and then at the door it's like 15. So
Cool.
you do save like $5 if you can, grab them before doors.
That's a steal. I mean, $5.
Bands,
The dollar won't get you that far these days, but I mean, $5 that'll get you a beer.
yeah, it's true.
You know, or at least most of a beer.
You're not wrong.
Three quarters of a beer you will get for $5. And I'm guessing that Diavolo Booking is on social media as well, Facebook, Instagram, all the good stuff.
Yeah, Instagram and Facebook.
Sweet. You're not on X,
No, I'm still trying to. I
aka Twitter.
Yeah, well, no, it's not even that. It's just like I haven't had time to set up a Twitter for it yet. I
You're
have to.
not you're not TikToking, bro.
I've had somebody TikTok for me, and then I. So it's funny because every one of my shows, I know I should be doing something like that, but it's like I try to enjoy everything that I put on in a sense. So I kind of get lost in enjoying like anyone's set that's playing, or just talking to anybody that comes up to me because I don't know, I'm very personable, so I like to talk to everybody. So when all that's pretty much said and done, it's like, oh, I wasted this entire show by seeing all the bands that I wanted to see and then talking to all my friends, and I didn't do anything that I should have done, like take pictures, record anything or anything like that, because I don't know. For me, it's just like I live in the moment, and I
Sure.
kind of just I like to you know watch the bands that are playing.
Yeah, I get it. Good for you. That's why you're doing it, right? To enjoy it.
Yeah,
So, all right, man. Well, thanks for taking the time. I'm happy to have learned more about you, the comedy, the stealing microphones from your friends. Now we're booking shows with Diavolo Booking. So
it's true. Thank you for having me.
yeah, man, it's great what you're doing. Like I said before, best of luck with the Happy Holiday show. Again, this December 9th, Clark's Billiards in Scranton, Providence Road. Tickets available now. Go to Diavolo Booking on Facebook or Instagram. There's a link to I'm sure the event page there too. So yeah, man, best of luck to you, and I'm hoping you one day get your reunion shows.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, best of luck.
All right, I'll see you.
All right, later.